He is on the line now from Florida, where this tragedy took place earlier this week. Rob, good morning. How you holding up?
Hey guys, I'm hanging in there.
It obviously it's an understatement to say that this has been a difficult week. First of all, can you report? We know what happened with the 6-week-old child who unfortunately passed away.
Yes.
Can you give us an update as to Sarah, who anyone who's listened to the show over the years knows Sarah as the mother of your child, Ben, all the ups and downs that the two of you have had. What is the condition of Sarah and also your 5-year-old son, Ben? How are they doing right now?
Ben, they're both still in ICU. Sarah has a fractured pelvis, fractured neck. She has some bumps and bruises, a concussion, but for the most part, she'll be okay. Ben, that kid's a trooper, man. He's got a lumbar fracture. He had a concussion. He's got some bumps and bruises, some scrapes, some road rash, but he's okay. They still have him in ICU, but they want to move him, and he's asking when he can go home. He's already They did PT where they're testing to make sure he'll be able to walk and all that stuff. And he not only was able to stand up, but he's telling them that he wants to run around. So he'll be okay. He's a tough little kid.
That was a concern that we had when we saw that this lumbar fracture. We were concerned that he may never walk again. But you're telling me that he will. He can stand up. He'll be able to walk around and move. And it's anticipated that he will eventually, with time, make a full recovery.
Yeah, they're not worried about any long-lasting implications. It's more emotional at this point. There's a lot of conversations that have to be had that, he hasn't asked questions about yet. I just want to be prepared with the right answers for when he does.
Has he said anything? I mean, does he remember what happened, or was he knocked unconscious?
No, he was knocked unconscious, so he doesn't remember the accident. He asked why he was in the hospital, and I explained to him that, he was hit by a car. It's nothing to be scared of. He will be okay. His mom will be okay. And for a while, it was touch and go with his sister. We didn't know what was going to happen. And when she passed the other day, I've still maintained while speaking with him that, it's everything's going to be okay. I've stopped saying, Mommy's going to be okay, Serena's going to be okay, to just everything's going to be okay, because I don't want to tell him the wrong thing. And he's going to have a long uphill battle emotionally, but physically he will be okay.
So Sarah is conscious. She's awake and alert.
She's heavily medicated because she can't move. I didn't know that your pelvis I knew your pelvis could break. I didn't know it could fracture, and she can't move her legs. So she can walk. She has feeling in them, but it's going to be months of rehabilitation for her. But she's guilt-ridden. She's very upset. So she hasn't been able. The problem is that she's in a separate hospital from the kids. So Serena and Ben are in a hospital called All Children's Hospital, which is an amazing facility. And then right across the street is Sarah. Problem is, because Sarah's in so much pain, they've only been able to bring her over to see the baby, for a few minutes at a time. And she hasn't been able to see Ben, but I don't really want her to see Ben right now, just because it's a scary sight for Ben to see his mom in a neck brace and have bumps and bruises. He saw her the first day, but since then, it was upsetting for him to see her, so we decided it's best that she kind of stay there, and he can talk to her on the phone when she's ready. She's very heavily medicated. She's in a lot of pain, so it's I don't know how much. Honestly, she's aware of what's going on right now. I don't think she knows that Serena had passed. They ran 2 separate tests on her brain activity to see if she was able to sustain life without a ventilator, and she wasn't both times. And on the second one, that's when they declared her legally dead in the state. And Sarah wasn't all there when I went over and told her. And now her mom is in town, so her mom's with her, so she's not alone. But I've been with the kids most of the time, so it's just been brief going over and checking in to make sure everything's okay with her. And I kind of explained to her, but again, she doesn't really know what's going on, so I've just been handling all of the arrangements and all of that stuff myself on behalf of her, just because I know there's things that she wanted, like she wanted Serena, if anything were to happen, both of our kids, me, myself, and her included, are all organ donors. So that's something that she wanted, and she would want for us to happen for Serena. So that's kind of the next step, is that we're going to donate her organs, and we're just waiting on an official time for them to do the surgery. And after that point, that's when they'll take her off the ventilators. And they
wait a second. Wait. So they've declared Serena, the 6-week-old. They've declared her dead, but she's still on the ventilators and life support right now.
Yeah, on the 12th, they gave her a time of death, which was 8:25. When they ran the second test, and she showed no activity in her brain and in her brain stem, the damage was so severe when she was hit that she that immediately, and paramedics, the doctors will tell you the straight truth, but you have to question as a parent whether they're going to tell you what's easy for you to hear or if they're telling you the truth. And I've consulted with friends who are EMTs, and they've told me that she didn't feel any pain. She went out. She lost her life when she was struck by that car. Her heart stopped. She was code blue on the way to the hospital. They performed CPR on her for a half hour. They brought her back, but she never regained consciousness. So the only reason why she's still hooked up to any type of machines is because once they remove her from the machines, her heart will stop. And once her heart stops, her organs are no longer able to be sent to other children who are going to be able to use them. So they're waiting on that. And it's good that they've done that, because it gives her, an extra 2 days here, whereas otherwise they would have disconnected her on the 12th. But since we decided to go through with organ donation, they still have her hooked up, and I'm still able to lay in bed with her. And, we cuddled, and I watch movies with her, and I make her listen to Springsteen, and I tell her all about her family and mine. And I just want her to know as much as possible that, her mother loves her, and I love her, and Ben loves her. And I want her to not be scared. And it's weird because last night they let me hold her, and it's not the same as it was a week ago, where I was holding her and her eyes were open and she was like giggling and doing all the things that babies do. It's a tough thing to hold her now, but it's what she needs. She needs to be held. She needs family around her until they go through with the surgery.
It almost seems like that would be in a way even harder. On one hand, it's great that she is an organ donor. There aren't too many children that are 6 weeks old that pass away and can donate these organs. So if there is a newborn baby that needs an organ, it's very difficult to get one.
Oh,
so
yeah, right.
The upside is that her organs can be used, but for you, it must be even more difficult, because it's not like she was declared dead 2 days ago, but they still have her hooked up to these machines, and it's you can't get any closure at this point.
No, but it gives me extra time, and I know that's it's good. The hard part is knowing that it's coming to an end. That's the hard part, is knowing that she's not going to be there. It could be today, it could be tomorrow. It's not going to be much longer that they have her hooked up to those machines, but it's weird to sit there and for them to tell me she's no longer here, but to be able to feel her heartbeat and to see her chest rise as she breathes. It's tough not to have that closure, but at the same time, it helps to be able to have more time with her, which I just don't want her to be in pain. And the sooner we can get her organs donated, and they've told me that she could save the lives of 8 different babies. And, that's all if it fits. And if she's a match, she could only save one life. But if she only saves one life, there's some type of silver lining in this whole thing, that she's able to save somebody else.
Was Sarah able to see Serena? I know I didn't even think of her being in another hospital. You said it's across the street, and they wheeled her over once. Was she able to see Serena before all of this? Before she passed, or she doesn't know that Serena has passed away, or what does Sarah know at this point?
She knows that both the tests came back. The brain activity test came back and showed no signs of activity in her brain. She does. to my knowledge and from what I sat with her and explained to her, I could see that she could comprehend that. The problem is they can't medically clear her to leave the hospital, to go across the street. So they've wheeled her over once, but after that first time when she was with Serena, she went back and her heart rate was elevated. They were worried about her having a stroke at that point, so they were worried to even let her go again. She was able to come over yesterday, but it was only for a few minutes before. I think a mixture of her being in pain and the grief, it's just overwhelming.
Right.
She was able to hold Serena's hand. We did, they let you do like little activities with her where we take her handprints and her footprints and we put them in a die cast and all that kind of stuff. And I really wanted Sarah to be a part of that, but because of her heart rate and because of her previous issues with blood pressure, they had to take her back to the hospital and she wasn't. But she does know that Serena has no signs of brain activity. She has told me that she does want Serena's organs to be donated if that was what came. And so I'm just trying to put everything for her. I want her to be able to come over and say goodbye one last time. We thought that the surgery was going to happen yesterday afternoon, so they brought Sarah over yesterday morning to say goodbye, and that was the second time she was able to come over. But since they postponed the surgery again until either later today or tomorrow, there's going to be another opportunity for Sarah to come over and see her. But again, Sarah's coming over, and she's, she can barely open her eyes. She does. She looks at her. She talks to her. But it's very brief, and then the doctors want to get her back to the hospital. Are you going to be monitored?
Rob, are you going to be in the room once it's over?
No, because what happens is they'll let me say goodbye to her and hold her and do all that stuff, but then they move her to an operating room, and at the operating room, that's when they'll take her organs, and then at that point, they shut off the life support. And I've asked if I could be in there, but they told me that you don't want to be in there as a father to see it because, her chest cavity will be open. She's not going to have any of her organs, and it's not a pretty sight for anybody to see. So they've told me that, say goodbye when you can, and that's what I've been doing. I'm lucky because my dad, my mom both flew down here. My two best friends in the world are flying down here. So we have help so that, for the first day it was Ben is in one room and Serena is in another, so I would go from one room to the other, and if I wasn't able to be with one, there were nurses to be with the other, but now we have family that can be with Ben and hold him while I'm with Serena, and it's a room over, so it's sad because he doesn't understand what's going on, but he just knows that I have to go see his sister for a little bit, and I come back, but at least now when I leave, there's family there to be there with him.
Rob, did Sarah ever say what happened?
No, she still... I've asked. She doesn't remember. The last thing she remembers is a few minutes before the accident because she lost consciousness. I'm sure over time she's going to start processing it and be able to talk about it. Everything I've heard is from either firsthand accounts of people who were at the scene, the police, EMTs, that kind of stuff. But no, nobody. I have no idea how it happened, what happened, anything like that, and. A lot of people are, and it's not the time to place blame on her or the driver, but as a father, I feel bad for the driver, and I don't want her, and I've reached out, and I've tried to get in connection with her because I know that she is going through a lot. This is something that I wouldn't wish upon my worst enemy, but I wouldn't want anybody to feel that guilt of being behind that wheel, that car. It's a terrible thing that she must feel right now, and I want her to know that I hold her not accountable in any way. It was an accident, and that poor woman needs to understand that what happened was out of her control. She couldn't see him. There was a dark road. They weren't in a crosswalk. There was no. It was dusk. It was the wrong place, the wrong time, and it's just an accident that it could have been prevented. It could have, and that's what I'm trying to come to terms with, is that this is something that didn't have to happen, but it did, and I don't want that woman to feel responsible for it because it's not her fault.
Rob, our former producer, is on with us, who, as you know, went through a horrible tragedy earlier this week where his Sarah was hit by a car along with his 5-year-old son, Ben, who... You'll remember Rob, who just left weeks ago. Rob's been working on the show for 5 years, and you'll remember all of the stories of Ben the custody battle, all of this kind of stuff that went on with Sarah, and then the birth of little Serena, who's only 6 weeks old, who has passed away because of this accident. We set up a fund for Rob, and I'll tell you how you can donate to that in just a moment. It's already up to, I think, about $40,000. I'll tell you how you can get to that in just a moment. Rob, how did you find out about this? Where were you? Who called you, or were you there nearby, or what happened?
I came home from work that day a little bit later in the afternoon than normally, just because I had some things I had to tie up it, and so I got home around like 3:30, 4 o'clock, and they usually when I come home from work, it's because it's Florida, it's nice, it's still warm down here. So Ben and we have a habit of either going to the beach after work or we go to the park, we do something. But because it was so late in the afternoon, I wasn't able to do that. So I came home from work. I spent a little time with both of them, and then since Sarah doesn't have a car or a way to get around, I said, hey, I'll take you guys to the park, and there's a park like a mile away from the house. So I dropped them off at the park around like 5:30. Right after we had like a little dinner, and then we went. I dropped them off at the park, and I went to the gym, and I told them, hey, I'll be back here around 7:15 to pick you guys up. And I got done at the gym at around 7, and I went to the park, and it was like 7:15, and nobody was there. And I called her phone a few times, and it was going straight to voicemail, so I just figured that her phone had died. At around 7:30, after they hadn't come out of the park, because it's a big park. It's a huge park. So I figured I'd get out and I'd start walking around to see if I could find them. Maybe they were still at the playground. And this time it's dark, so I'm going, well, they probably are at, there's basketball courts, there's a lit playground, so they're probably still over there. So I went over. I didn't see them. At that point, I was walking back to my car to get in, and a cop from the police department here locally called me, and he just said that there had been an accident, and that both children had been rushed to the hospital, that Ben had been life-flighted, as had Serena, and that Sarah had been taken by an ambulance. At that point, they just told me where to go, so I got down there, and then that evening I immediately went, and I was able to see Ben right away, just because he wasn't in as bad shape. I mean, he was in a lot of pain. He was strapped to a board, but he was getting x-rays and all that kind of stuff, and he was okay. And to see him and know he was going to be okay, and that's what the doctors immediately were telling me. It's like, he's not what you have to be worried about. He's going to be okay. It's Serena that we're primarily concerned with. Eventually, they moved them to the ICU units that evening. Around like 10 o'clock, they moved them up. And then at around, it was close to 1 or 2 in the morning, they had pulled me into a side room, and they just explained what had happened to Serena, the injuries that she suffered, and that she wasn't showing any signs of brain activity. And they told me about the tests that they were going to perform and what they were going to do next. And at that point, it became, it was really hard. And there were cops that were at the scene of the accident who went to the hospital, who sat with me until 3 in the morning. And, I mean, it's total strangers that were sitting there just telling me it's going to be okay. And the next day is kind of when I went and I broke the news to Sarah that, Serena's, she's touch and go. They don't really know what's going to happen just yet. And then they performed the test that night. Tuesday night, they performed the first test, and it came back negative. And then Wednesday morning, they performed the second brain test, and that came back negative as well.
Obviously, a parent's worst nightmare to have something like this happen. When you got that call, did you just immediately break down? I mean, I can't imagine what getting a call like that would be, because you don't know what you didn't at that point. You didn't even know what happened.
That's the thing. I didn't call my parents right away, and I didn't want to start. I didn't know how bad it was. And the weird part is, the park that they were at is right down the road from the accident scene. And where the accident took place, there's a high school there. And I saw that the road was shut down, not knowing that the accident had happened. I saw the fire trucks, the police cars. I didn't see any ambulances or anything like that. And I thought, well, that's weird. I thought maybe there's a high school football game or something, but it was a Monday night. I go, it just doesn't make sense. Why is all that activity going on down the road? And that's when I got the call. I immediately put two and two together that, oh my God, that it happened right up there. And I knew it must be serious because there was fire trucks. I mean, it was everywhere. There was but no ambulances, and that was the only thing that concerned me was, well, there's not an ambulance anywhere in sight. So what happened? They must have, it must not be that bad. But then it kicks in that, they were life flighted, and they don't life flight you just because you were bumped by a car. They life flight you because you're in serious harm and you've really been injured. So I had a friend I called, the girl that came in for the hookup, Adrian. I talked to her and I called her, and she kept me calm as I raced to the hospital, and she just kept telling me it's going to be okay. My first thought was, if something happened at Ben, I don't know how I'll ever live. I love both of those children equally, and it's not easier that one went or the other lived, but you spend 5 years with a child, and the idea that I would never be able to see him again, it continued to break me down. And thank God for her, because she's the only thing that kept me able to continue to drive and get to the hospital and be able to be there with both of them when they needed me to be.
Are you, Rob? A lot of people have asked me if you have any, like Sarah, like, are you, it's a tragedy what happened. Are you angry at her? Are you, you don't want to place blame on anyone, but I mean, what goes through your head?
I'm not, I don't know. I haven't gotten to that point yet. I'm angry about the situation. I'm not angry at her. I pity her. This is something she's going to have to live with for the rest of her life, and I will too, but I wasn't the one pushing that stroller, and that's something she's going to have to deal with. And, at this point, I'm not, I brought her down here with the intentions that we got a house that was big enough that we could live two separate sides of the house, and so that we could have two separate lives. I could have mine with Ben, she could have hers with Serena, and we could be together for both of the kids. We're not dating, we're not together, but I'm there for her emotionally and to help her. And the goal was within 6 months for her to be able to have a job, to put money away so that she could afford her own place. Mm-hmm. Obviously, at this point, that's not going to happen. And at this point, I need to remove myself from that situation and let her have her family around her. And so I'm not angry. I'm not spiteful towards her. I pity her because it's going to be an uphill battle for her and her family to try and get her the help that she's going to need. I know that I need therapy. I've known that for a long time, and you guys have been witness to that, me going to therapists over the years. I will get the help I need for this, and Ben will get the help he needs. Listen, a lot of that is because of you, Rob. You could have chosen to do nothing, and you chose to do everything in your power to make sure that these two kids got the help that they need. I can't tell you how much I appreciate the love and support that you guys have shown me. Sarah's going to need a lot more help than what I can give her, and so ultimately the goal is that she goes back to New Jersey for a while, and she rehabs her legs, and she gets better and able to walk, and Ben will go back, and he's going to stay with my parents for a while, and I'm going to fly up every weekend and be able to be there with him. But right now I don't have the means to support her, and I need her to get help, and she'll get the help that she needs with her family. And then if she wants to come back down in months from now, that's something that we can look at, and I'm happy to help her be around Ben as much as possible. But she needs to focus on getting her life back in order, and this is not going to be something that's going to be able to be fixed overnight. She has a long uphill battle.
Rob, so Ben's going back to Jersey? He's going to stay there, and you're going to stay in Florida?
My mom is here. She's going to stay with me for a while, but I don't want to. I'll be okay without him being here. I can't say the same for Sarah. I don't think ripping two children away from her is going to do her any good, and I think Ben needs to be around her. So eventually the goal is for him to get – it's not going to happen right away. He's still He's going to be in a neck brace for a few weeks. He's going to still need to be down here for doctor's appointments, but eventually we're going to have him go back up there just for a month or two so he can be around her. I mean, we don't know when Sarah's going to get released. It could be weeks. It could be months. I mean, it depends on how long it's going to take for her to be able to walk on her own again. And I don't want to take that away from her, but when she's ready to go, she will head back to New Jersey, and at that point, Ben will go back so he can be with her. And in the meantime, I'll get to have Ben, and I'll get to have the conversations with him that he's going to need to have. He's going to have a lot of questions that I don't have answers to right now, but I'm trying to struggle to find those answers so that I can tell him about what happened and how it happened and all that stuff.
Rob, we certainly obviously do. She's been crying through this entire thing. It's been emotional. I'm not the most emotional guy, but I've been holding back tears here. My eyes were, starting to water. It's a terrible situation, and I hope that one of the things that crossed our mind was we hope that you didn't put any blame on yourself because you took this job down there, and then this happens a couple of weeks after you go down there.
You do that, though. I've done that with, what had happened if I waited to edit the things that I edited on Monday on Tuesday. And then I would have been home earlier, and I would have taken Ben to the park. What happens if I had signed up for a gym that had a daycare facility? Then Ben would have gone to the daycare, and they wouldn't have even gone to the park that day if I had never taken the job down here. Sarah was crossing that street to go get formula for the baby at CVS, and she had texted me earlier that day saying we need it. Now, had I stopped on my way home and gotten it, she might not have been crossing that road. Those are all the things that, believe me, I've gone over it, that accident a million times in my head and the way that it could be prevented. And the only thing I've been told by the social workers here and the therapists that I've been talking with in the hospital is that it happened. And it's not about what you can do to try and change it from happening. It's how you can move forward and make sure that my son, that little boy, that he has the best life possible and that he doesn't think for a second that we forgot about his sister. Just because she's not here doesn't mean that she's not in our hearts and in our minds. And before you let me go, because I know you guys have a show to do, I want to take a second, Rover, to thank you. I'm not an employee of yours, and you still went out of your way to take care of me. And that says a lot about you as a man. And, I may not have been the best employee, and we may have disagreed on a lot of things, but you were a stand-up individual, and in your heart, you are a good human being. And Duji and Charlie and Gator Jeffrey, Chris Tyler, Rachel from sales who reached out, every single person that's up there that has spent a minute of their time thinking about us and praying for us, and the listeners for donating your money and donating your prayers and your thoughts, your tweets, everything that you guys have done, I will never forget. And I felt totally alone at one point when I was down here, and I'm thousands of miles away from you guys, and you guys still embrace me as a family member. And you have the best group of listeners in the entire world, Rover. They're so supportive of past cast members, of present cast members. I can't tell you, the listeners, you, Rover, or you, Duji, how much I appreciate the things that you've done, the things that you've said, the prayers and the thoughts. It means the world to me. It means the world to my family. And I've only seen my dad cry a few times, but every time we talk about what you've done, Rover, for us, he breaks down in tears, as do I. And I just want you to know I'll never be able to repay you. And I know that no one is looking for that, but I love all of you. And I appreciate what you've done for me and for my children and their mother. Thank you.
Well, it's the least that we could do, Rob, and it doesn't matter whether you're an employee any longer or not.
You'll always be family.
Yeah, and listen, Rob, we will let you go because I'm sure you want to go. This is emotionally draining to talk about stuff, and I think everyone that is a fan of the show has heard about this. They've donated. They have certainly been thinking about you, Rob, and I'm sure that they appreciate you, the thanks that you give them. But it was really the least that we could do, anyone could do. And
well, you guys, everybody, you could have done nothing, and you guys did the opposite. And to me, that means a lot. And I really appreciate it. And I love all of you. Thank you so much, every single one of you. Jeffrey, you included, man.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry for the things that, in the past we've never seen eye to eye on stuff, but I love all of you guys, and you especially, Jeffrey, and I just, if I can say just one thing before I go, it's just that, to hug your kids. You don't know how long you're going to have them here for, and I don't wish this upon anyone, and I'm grateful that I have the support here locally in Cleveland, in Rochester, Binghamton, every single market you guys are in. Thank you, guys. Thank you so much.
Rob, thank you for coming on with us, and obviously we'll keep in touch with you, and we want to see the progress that's made. And listen, man, we wish you luck, not only in this, but we wish you luck down in Florida, just everything in general, and take care of yourself and your kids, your son and Sarah, and just hang in there for them. And Rob, again, I appreciate you coming on, and I'm going to tell people again how they can donate here in just a second. But
thank you, Rob. Thank you so much, man. Thank you.
You're welcome.
That's
you. Rob Garguilo, our former producer. Thank you, Rob. I am not an emotional guy, but that really that's as close as you can get to. Very, very difficult. Very difficult.